Long time no see. So in case you were wondering why I disappeared for 3 months, well, it was because of this little shit. What basically happened is once I joined college, I joined a robotics club and made this.
Go.
It got second place. However, I wanted to make something bigger, and so soon after I decided to come up with a drawing for a new design, a 3-pound robot. This was a very ambitious project for me, especially because I had no experience in Fusion or any other CAD software at this point. And, well, although I did get it to work and my robot is very impressive when completed, I admit that the building process was wildly flawed. I did have sponsors, however the robot that was originally supposed to cost $500 ended up costing over $850. It was a long and costly project, and I had to learn a lot. But bit by bit, my robot slowly started to come together, until eventually I had something that was very solid. Now before I tell you guys how I did in the tournament itself, I'm going to go over how I designed this robot with my long ass hair dangling in the shot. As you can see, it is a 2-wheeled vertical spinner. The weapon weighs about 100 grams. Looking at it now, I can see some similarities to Copperhead. It is about 16 centimeters across in both directions and 9 centimeters tall. It is very dense, using every last one of its 1,361 grams available. The internals include an 850 mAh battery, a 70-amp brushless speed controller, 2 brushed DC motors with their own speed controller that were surprisingly powerful for being brushed. They are mounted to the single-piece chassis with 2 mounting plates each, one being carbon fiber and the other being PETG. It also has 2 6.5 centimeter wheels coated with to increase traction. The weapon and forks are both made out of S7 tool steel, which in hindsight was a mistake, and was a leading factor on why my robot was so expensive. They weren't even heat treated, making them less effective than the other weapons robots had. The way I mounted the weapon is with these aluminum mounting plates that are held in with bolts on either side. This allows for massive side wedges to protect the weapon. And that's it really. It's a very simple robot and it's designed that way because it decreases the amount of things that can break on it. Okay, one more thing before we get into the fights. I'd like to talk about my sponsors, as this project would not have been possible without them. My main sponsor is known as the Kinship Center. It's a school and social center for children and young adults that are neurodivergent. As a person with special needs myself, I know the struggle of the inability to socialize and find a comfortable learning place. Founded by my mother and my greatest supporter, it became her mission to help others not have to go through the same thing I did and allow them to grow in a more healthy way. If you live in the Roseville area and are interested, check them out on their website. And if you happen to live in the Bay Area, you could also check out their sister company, Kinship Academy. I was also sponsored by Alterna Sin Fronteras. In this current administration, it is more important than ever that immigrants from Latin America and their families are given options to support themselves here in America. Alterna provides financial inclusion by allowing anyone to open a bank regardless of their immigration status. It also allows them to provide money for their families abroad whether or not they are banked. If you are in this situation or just happen to be interested, you can check them out on their website as well. And if you agree with this, the support and funds from both of my family's companies is what has made this possible. So thank you. Okay, now for the fights. Now, in the month preceding the event, I had done everything I could to make sure I was absolutely ready for it. I had actually finished my robot an entire month before the fight was supposed to happen, so I just spent the remainder of my time just practicing. And practicing. And practicing. Oh, I should probably address the elephant in the room. Yeah, I didn't have nearly enough time or money to build a professional battle box. What I did is that I just put some pieces of wood down on a piece of cement and just walked really far away and counted that as safe enough. Probably isn't safe as it could have been, but shh, that never happened. Anyway, I knew it would be facing opponents with much more skill than I did. So I just wanted to get some driving in so I would at least have a chance at getting the ground game. But, as you know, time flies, and before I knew it, I was already at the event, preparing my bot. I was really nervous in the last few days, so the event organizer decided to calm my nerves, telling me that my opponent was a first-time bot builder. And my first opponent was none other than Boy Skylark, a 4-foot wide robot with its win condition just being that it's too big to drive around. And that's exactly what I was afraid of as I was about to go into my first fight. I was especially afraid of how long the forks were, as they were longer than mine and could get under my robot easily.
HELLTONGUE.
But there is no turning back. No matter how it goes, I was going to give it my all. At first, I had no idea how to even approach this robot, causing me to quickly get pinned. However, once he backed off, I realized my steel forks could still get under Boy Skylark's TPU ones despite being shorter. I used them to flip him over, exposing his weak backside, then launched him into the air with my weapon. I began ramming into him head on, my robot's weight causing his frame to bend, making it easier to get under him. With that advantage, I started pinning him repeatedly, each time tearing into his flexible beam. I then decided to go for one of its two motors. The frame in which it was contained fit perfectly within my forks, allowing me to slam it into the wall. This immediately started causing problems for Boy Skylark's drive that would only get worse throughout the fight. I continued to get good hits on him as his left motor started to seize, and eventually... the left wheel broke off of Boy Skylark's axle, rendering him immobile, giving me the first knockout of the day. My win against Boy Skylark was demonstrative that despite its crude design, my robot was not fundamentally flawed and could actually be competitive under the right driver. The guy that made Boy Skylark was really nice. He even gave me a piece of his robot that I broke. I offered to help fix his robot, but he declined. The robot I would be facing next was a shoving robot named Shove Off. Except, no. Unfortunately, the guy driving the robot became busy and had to forfeit the match. So it was on to the next round immediately for me, where I'd instead be fighting an opponent I was very excited for, Punk. Now, there are a few reasons why I was so eager to fight this bot. One of them being that they had just scored a victory against the most terrifying beetleweight I've ever seen. Another one being that it just so happens to be built and piloted by a dude named Kendrick, the leader of the BattleBots team at Sierra College and the guy that taught me fusion. And finally, because I knew that this fight was basically a guaranteed win. The idea with Punk is just have a massive slab of metal as a wedge to deflect weapons, which is really good for horizontal spinners like 0-0, but really bad for vertical spinners that have forks that can get under solid wedges.
Go Sierra College.
Yeah, right?
Either way we live.
As the fight got underway, I decided to go easy on him at first, leaving my weapon off and just relying on my superior ground game to score points. As you can see, I definitely did not practice enough without my weapon being on. I was not used to turning this fast. Although I did rack up a few pins, I, and probably the audience, eventually got bored, so I decided to spin it up. The metal wedge was a great target for my weapon. Every time I hit it, it launched the robot into the air. This caused Punk to get stuck on the wall. This happened several more times throughout the fight. And then I immediately got stuck myself. So as the battle raged on, I was racking up pins and occasionally spinning up my weapon to give him a smack. But eventually, after hitting him particularly hard, his wedge started to separate from his body. It was at this moment that I realized what I needed to do. However, soon after, Punk got the jump on me and managed to flip me over. Although my robot could drive upside down due to its large wheels, it wasn't very good, and I knew if I wanted to win this fight, I had to right myself. So I kind of just spent the next 40 seconds just kind of dicking around and trying to ram into the wall and flip my bot over while completely tearing up the floor in the process. It was really funny to watch, but it was a terrifying 40 seconds. However, I was eventually able to flip my bot back over. By this point, Punk's wedge was holding on by a thread, and I knew it would only take one good hit to rip it off him. It even caused him to get stuck when it dipped below his wheels and lifted his left wheel off the ground. And eventually, I was able to get that final hit on him, caught in this remarkable slow motion footage. Because Punk had already used his 3 unsticks in this fight, the ref started counting him out. And because he couldn't move at all, it caused me to get my second win of the day. Now, Punk has seen his fair share of losses, but no one has ever completely ripped off the wedge like I had before. Despite the one-sidedness, we both found the fight very enjoyable, and we had a good time about it. However, the games were now over. I was to face a far more formidable opponent in the semifinals, the number 1 seed, F3. This is F3. It is another vertical spinner robot that is slightly less bulky than mine. But other than that, it's basically just me, but better. The person who created the bot also had been doing it for much longer than I have, and had a lot more experience driving as well. My bot may have been ready for anything that any other bot could throw at it, but as the fight went on, it wasn't even close. F3 very quickly inverted my bot, leaving it vulnerable, and allowing him to get some hits on it. However, this wasn't for very long, as after missing a charge, he got stuck. And out of the kindness of their hearts, the event organizers decided to flip my bot over as well. Now, despite him using a brushless drive system, our ground game was actually pretty even. My larger and stickier wheels made up for the difference in motor strengths. However, F3 was quick to capitalize on my mistakes, and after jamming my wheel, he sent my bot to the stratosphere. Eventually, my motor did unjam itself, and we got into a pushing match. But then he used that opportunity to throw me off balance and eviscerate my side wedge. Finally, while upside down, I accidentally turned into F3 spinner, causing him to tear off my wheel. I didn't want to tap out, so I took Ray Billings' advice and stopped moving. As the referee counted down, I had great fears of what I might find once I had to open up my robot. As it turns out, my robot was fine. Other than the eviscerated side wedge and a bent motor shaft, my robot had no significant damage. In fact, trying to switch everything to a new chassis probably broke it more than the fight did. Everything was kind of a blur, and I forgot to get footage of it, so I can't really say much about it, but I will tell you, it was a shit show. So much of a shit show, in fact, that when it was time for me to fight for second place with Vassalist, my transmitter was incorrectly mapped, and I couldn't drive correctly. In fact, both of our bots were broken. I can't even really talk about the fight because it's literally just this. And yet, despite inverting and getting stuck multiple times, the judges decided that I won somehow. I have no idea how they even came to that decision. Anyway, after winning the losers bracket, it was time for the finals, where I had to face F3 again. Now, if you've been paying attention with my matchups during this tournament, I might know what you're thinking. Yes, I got lucky. I got absurdly lucky. From Shove-Off having to forfeit the match, to Vassalist being broken, to just the opponents I have been matched with in general, it is possible to argue that all my success was just a fluke, and I do not have what it takes to be in combat robotics. But I am hoping, after I show you the last match and explain my reasoning, I can convince you otherwise. I'm going to play it out in full. Enjoy.
Oh, God. Oh, boy. Oh! Woo! Oh! Oh! Woo! 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 Oh, shit! Woo! Oh, my God! Woo! 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 Oh, yeah. Oh, my God! Oh, boy! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Oh, my God! Oh no! That was so good, buddy. You did so good. You did so good, buddy. Nice job, buddy. Nice job, buddy.
No, I did not win the final match, but I almost did. For a brief moment in time, I had the upper hand against the most aggressive player at the tournament, not only holding him off, but also causing considerable damage to his robot. It was not just my skill with driving that I showed, however. Throughout all the punishment that my robot suffered, the only mechanical damage was the bent motor shaft after my first fight with F3. There was even less damage after my second fight with him. I simply put the wheels back on, still runs, could go into a fight right now. I showed that if I could get consistent and improve my robot, I would be a menace in the beetleweight combat scene. At least, that's what I believe, and I hope you believe it too. Before I end the video, there is one last twist I have yet to go over. After the penultimate fight with F3, it was off to the award ceremony. Everyone got their weight class trophies, and I gave a silly little speech about things I have already explained in this video. But then, once it was time for the specialty awards, this happened.
All right, and for the final award, most destructive. This was a tough decision between the judges, and we've had quite a few bots being thrown around, destroyed, the whole lot. However, we came to a consensus after the last, well, not last fight, but second to last fight. The most destructive award for Robotronica goes to Hell. I've immediately forgotten the second part of your award.
Me? My robot? The robot with the 100-gram untreated steel weapon? I was confident my robot would do well in the tournament, but being named the most destructive left me speechless, especially because said second to last match had both bots barely working. I thought F3, 0-0, or another heavy hitter would win that title, but looking back, it made sense. During my first two matches, my robot launched opponents into the air and left deep gashes in their armor. I was the first to rip off Punk's wedge, and in the fourth fight, even though I didn't destroy the opponent, I definitely destroyed the arena floor. These are the biggest factors in what made the judges decide that my robot was the most destructive. At least that's what I think, because I still kind of know what they were thinking. So yeah, that's how I won not one, but 2 awards during my first ever beetleweight event. I received a standing applause from the Sierra College Robotics Club at my adept learning and building of the bot, and the professors at the Mechatronics building were so impressed with my accomplishment that they put my robot on display in the Mechatronics exhibit for everyone to see. I may have only spent 3 months in combat robotics, but I enjoyed every last minute of it, and I'll be looking forward to many, many more. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. This arena sucks ass!